In 1928, Edward Bernays published a book called Propaganda. His first line, "The conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society." This wasn't written by some conspiracy theorist. Bernays was Sigmund Freud's nephew and the father of modern public relations. He was telling us to our faces that we were being manipulated, and we didn't even notice. Well, apparently the chaos you see around you, the economic breakdowns, the failing schools, the widening inequality, isn't the result of incompetence or bad luck. These aren't bugs in the system, but features. The world isn't broken at all, but functioning exactly as designed. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on a world built not for human flourishing, but for control, extraction, and profit. By the end of this video, you'll never look at society's failures the same way again. Have you ever wondered why, despite all our technological advancement, most people work longer hours than medieval peasants did? Why, despite unprecedented wealth creation, half the world lives on less than $5.50 a day? Why education systems seem designed to crush creativity rather than nurture it? These aren't random outcomes. They're architectural features. Let's start with education. The modern school system wasn't created to develop free thinkers. It was modeled after Prussian factories to produce obedient workers and soldiers. The bells, the rigid schedules, the emphasis on compliance. These weren't accidents. As industrialist Henry Ford once remarked, if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. The system doesn't want innovation. It wants predictability. Consider the words of former U.S. Commissioner of Education, William T. Harris, in 1889. The great purpose of school can be realized better in dark, airless, ugly places. School buildings, which are beautiful and inspiring, may actually interfere with the attainment of the end sought. Think about that. They knew exactly what they were doing. The truth is, creativity is dangerous to power. Original thinking threatens hierarchies. That's why our schools don't teach financial literacy or critical media analysis. That's why they emphasize memorization over questioning. As George Carlin put it, they don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They want obedient workers just smart enough to run the machines and just dumb enough to passively accept all these increasingly shittier jobs. Have you noticed how the history you learned in school is sanitized? How it centers on dates and names rather than patterns of power? This isn't coincidence. A population that understands historical power dynamics might recognize them in the present, and that would be inconvenient for those benefiting from the current arrangement. Now, let's talk about economic crises. We're told they're unfortunate accidents, market corrections, unforeseen bubbles, acts of God. But look closer. In the 2008 financial collapse, who suffered? Working people lost their homes, their savings, their futures. And who benefited? The very financial institutions that created the crisis received massive bailouts and bought foreclosed properties for pennies on the dollar. As economist Joseph Stiglitz observed, we socialized the losses and privatized the gains. This wasn't a failure of the system. This was the system working exactly as designed, an engineered transfer of wealth upward disguised as an accident of the market. Think about this. Since the 1970s, productivity has increased by over 150%, but wages have barely budged. Where did those gains go? Straight to the top. The richest 1% now own more wealth than the bottom 90% combined. This isn't the result of merit or innovation, it's by design. Did you know that in the 1950s, the top marginal tax rate was over 90%? Today, it's 37%. Meanwhile, corporations like Amazon and Netflix frequently pay zero federal taxes despite billions in profits. The systems aren't broken, they're rigged. The comfort of the rich depends upon an abundant supply of the poor, said Voltaire. Nothing has changed since the 18th century, except the sophistication of the propaganda convincing us that this arrangement is natural, inevitable, or somehow in our interest. Let's talk about something we rarely discuss: debt as a control mechanism. The average American graduates college with $37,000 in student loan debt. Add a mortgage, car payments, credit cards, and what do you have? a population too financially strapped to take risks, too exhausted to rebel, too frightened to demand better conditions. As philosopher Noam Chomsky noted, that's the standard technique of privatization. Defund, make sure things don't work, people get angry, you hand it over to private capital. Public institutions are deliberately starved until we beg for corporate takeovers. Consider healthcare. The United States spends twice as much per person as other developed nations, yet has worse outcomes. Is this incompetence? Or is it a perfectly functioning profit machine that values shareholder returns over human lives? When insulin costs $300 in America, but $30 in Canada, that's not market failure, that's market design. The philosopher Michel Foucault described how modern power doesn't need chains or dungeons. It creates systems where we police ourselves, where we internalize the demands of power and call them our own desires. We don't need guards when we have student loans. We don't need whips when we have mortgages. We volunteer for our own subjugation and call it freedom. Have you noticed how the media frames issues of equality? They'll ask if we can afford universal health care, while never questioning if we can afford endless war. They'll debate the feasibility of living wages while treating billionaire existence as natural. This isn't balanced reporting. It's manufactured consent. Look at how protests are covered. When people demonstrate against inequality, they're rioters. When they rally against corporate power, they're extremists. But corporations buying politicians, that's just lobbying. Language itself becomes a weapon, making radical the idea that people deserve dignity and normalizing the truly radical idea that profit matters more than life. Until the lion learns to write, every story will glorify the hunter, goes the African proverb. Who owns the media companies that shape your understanding of the world? 6 corporations control 90% of what Americans read, watch, and listen to. These same corporations have board members who sit on the boards of defense contractors, pharmaceutical giants, and banks. You think their stories serve your interests or theirs? Social media promised democratization, but delivered the most sophisticated surveillance and behavior modification systems in human history. Facebook's own internal documents revealed they knowingly amplify anger because it increases engagement. Twitter's algorithms promote outrage because controversy sells ads. These platforms aren't broken. They're working perfectly to harvest your attention and sell it to the highest bidder. Remember when they said technology would free us? Give us more leisure time. Instead, we got the gig economy, 0-hour contracts, and employers expecting 24/7 availability. The smartphone didn't liberate us from the office, it turned the whole world into an office. As philosopher Byung-Chul observes, today we do not deem ourselves subjugated subjects, but rather projects. We've internalized the logic of exploitation and call it self-optimization. The great magic trick of power is convincing us that its arrangements are natural laws, that extreme inequality is the inevitable result of freedom, that homelessness alongside empty houses is just economics, that war is human nature rather than profitable industry. As Mark Fisher wrote, it's easier to imagine the end of the world than the end of capitalism. Our imagination itself has been colonized. So what do we do with this knowledge? First, recognize that these systems aren't failing. They're succeeding at goals different from what you've been told. Second, understand that if systems are designed, they can be redesigned. Nothing about our current arrangement is inevitable or natural. As anthropologist David Graeber pointed out, the ultimate hidden truth of the world is that it is something we make and could just as easily make differently. The powers that be invest enormous resources into convincing you that there are no alternatives. This itself should tell you how viable those alternatives actually are. Remember Bernays and his book Propaganda that I mentioned at the beginning? His techniques helped corporations sell cigarettes by linking them to women's liberation. He helped overthrow democratic governments for fruit companies. He showed the powerful how to manufacture desire and consent. And his most powerful insight, that people who believe they're making free choices are the easiest to control. The first step toward freedom is recognizing the cage. The world isn't broken, it's designed this way. But designs can be changed. Systems can be reimagined. The trap only works if you don't know it's there. Thanks for watching.